Welcome to part 2 of my low poly flashlight series. Before we go over materials, I'm going to rename our objects so we'll keep track of which objects get which materials. I'll name this one flashlight, then this one I'll name button, and then we'll name the last one grip. To add a material, we're going to select the object we want to apply the material to, and then we'll go to the Material Properties panel. It's going to look like this red globe here, and then we'll click New. When you select New, the material that pops up, it'll display a material name that we can change if needed. I'm going to call this one Flashlight. Under the surface panel, you see all of the different properties we can give our material. Hovering over them will kind of display a brief explanation of what each different property does. But for now, we're going to keep it pretty simple and just focus on changing the base color. To get started, we're going to change it to a nice dark gray. And then if you want to preview the model material, there is the preview tab that you can drop down and it'll display that material. I think I'm going to make the color just a little bit darker. And under the surface properties, I think we're going to make it slightly metallic. The metallic property will determine just how shiny your material is going to be. So if you adjust it by a lot, it'll get very shiny. If you adjust it by little, it won't be as shiny. Same for the roughness. The roughness will determine just how flat the material is going to look. So here, if you turn it up all the way, it'll be very flat. If you turn it all the way down, it'll be very shiny. For now, I think we're going to keep it at, 0.5 for both properties. I think that's the appearance I was kind of looking for. Semi-shiny, not quite, but yeah. If you want to preview the materials onto the model, if you go up to the right corner of the viewport, right now it is set to viewport shade solid, but if you go to the right button, it'll say material preview. You select that, it'll then display what the material will look like on your model. Moving on, we are going to work on the grip. Once again, we're going to make a new material. I'll call it Flashlight Grip. And then if you want to preview it, you can, once again, toggle the drop-down button. But since we are in preview mode for the viewport, I think that we're okay. For the material for this one, I think we're going to go for like a lighter gray color. And I believe most flashlight grips tend to have kind of a spongy foam or fabric type of material. So we're just going to up the roughness a little bit so it looks more matte. About 0.7, I think will look good. And that's our grip. Next, we're going to move on to the button. I'm going to make, once again, a new material, and we're going to call this Flashlight Button. For the color of this one, I think we're going to do a nice bright red. Something like that, I think will look good. And I think for the materials, I think I want to make it slightly shiny. So we're going to lower the roughness. let's see, I think 0.4 for the roughness. And for the metallic, I think we're going to do 0.1, just so it is slightly shiny. But yeah, if you'd like, you can play around with these values. Maybe 0.2 for the metallic. But yeah, play around with the materials, kind of just adjust things how you'd like until you're pretty satisfied. Yeah, and I think that's pretty good. All right, now going back to the flashlight for a moment to focus on the glass panel in the front. As you can see, the material is applied to the entire object, but we don't want that front panel to be that same color. So to do this, we're going to select our flashlight. We're going to scroll on over to Object Mode, and we're going to scroll back to Edit Mode. In Edit Mode, you're going to go to Face Select, and you're going to select the front face of that flashlight, the glass panel. And then to create a new material for that specifically, you're going to hit New on the Materials panel. You're going to make a new one. I'm going to call it Flashlight Glass. And then we're going to select that front panel, that front glass panel again. You're going to then select the glass material that we just made, and you're going to hit the Assign button. Now, if you noticed, the panel has changed color. So it's now assigned that new material to that one face. So we're going to change the color of it just a little bit. I'm going to make it like a bit of a pale yellow, just to indicate that there's like maybe, a light coming from it. I'm going to lower the roughness because it is supposed to be glass, so it is like meant to be somewhat transparent and somewhat shiny, a little bit reflective. Yeah, I think we'll go 0.5 for metallic and 0.2 for roughness. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, if you want to add a light to the flashlight, I believe you can use the emission property under your surface panel. If you increase the strength for the emission, it will make it brighter. You can also change the color. I'm going to color match for the glass that we made. I'm going to color match that color by copying and pasting the hex code. If you preview the rendering, you can now see the light. Adjusting the strength indicates how strong or how bright the light is going to be. Sort of similar to like turning on and turning off your flashlight. But yeah, going back into our material preview. Let's see, that pretty much finishes up the flashlight. But yeah, looking pretty neat. Pretty simple, but pretty cool. Now, one thing I learned is that Blender has different types of shading that you can utilize for your models. If you want to check these out, you would select everything here in object mode and then right click on the viewport. It'll pop up with different shading options. If you look at shade smooth, it'll render it smoothly. But as you can see for our model, in this instance, it looks a little bit wonky. We've kind of lost some of that definition for the flashlight. So to fix that, there is a modifier that we can apply. So we're going to go to our modifiers tab. It is the little wrench icon that we played around with the first video. And under the modifiers tab, we're going to search up normals and smooth by angle. The default angle is 30. If you notice, it creates some of the definition that was missing, not quite everything. It creates that definition, smoothing certain areas, but leaving the sharpness of others. As you can see, for like the head of the flashlight and the bottom grip area. But I found that if we lower it to 25, we then get a little bit more definition that emphasizes the head of the flashlight. And I think reintroduces kind of the style that we were looking for. Now I'm just going to test out and see if the modifier is necessary for the other materials that we need. Because they are like smaller accessories to the model, I feel like it doesn't impact those ones too much. So yeah, you don't really need to add them. I think just using it for the base flashlight model was kind of all we needed, really. But it's nice to fiddle around and tinker with things and see what works and what doesn't. Yeah, I don't think we needed them after all, just for that base model. Yeah, so going back to our flashlight, under object mode, we are now going to apply that modifier, and there we go. If you were not a fan of the smooth look, you can go back to flat shading by selecting everything and right-clicking for the viewport and finding the shade flat option. And there you go. Now you got your 2 different styles of shading that you can utilize for your model. For my next project, I'm thinking of making some batteries that we can use for this flashlight. I'm planning to make an acid pack that'll feature this flashlight and those batteries. If you have any suggestions for other items that I can put in this acid pack, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Thank you for watching.